Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of I Have a Headache, totally unrelated to late night birthday shenanigans. However, it is related to the topic of today's video, the White Elf from Dungeon Wolf. Speaking of birthday shenanigans, Anna, my lovely wife, wanted to do a live stream, so that's what we're doing. Per her request, we are doing a Super Mario Bros. Wonder drinking game tonight, today, on the Metal Meltdown. The party starts at approximately 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This also doubles as a birthday bash for the both of us. So please pop on by, tune in, say hello, grab a drink, have some fun. We're gonna drink, we're gonna play Super Mario Bros. Wonder, obviously, and possibly other video games throughout the night as things get weirder and wilder and crazier and dumber. Hope to see you there, bud, because, you know, as much as I love Anna and as much as I love Chompy, it's just not a party without you. So I genuinely hope you're there, bud. Cheers. All right, now to deal with the elephant in the room, or perhaps the dungeon wolf in the room, because this is what my fucking life is now. Sweet Kentucky Fried fucking fuckity fuck, man. God damn it. If you've paid any attention to the Metal Meltdown over the course of the past 2 years or so, then there's a good chance you might already know who Dungeon Wolf are. You already know that I am not a huge fan of their work, of what they've done. I'm not a huge fan of 2021's Metal's Back, or this year's EP, Barbed Wire Tattoo. In my previous video, entitled Top 10 Most Hated Metal Bands of All Time, I specifically named Dungeon Wolf as one of my most hated bands of all time. And on top of all of this, again, if you've paid any attention to the Metal Meltdown, you may have noticed that Dungeon Wolf themselves also pay a lot of attention to the Metal Meltdown. They tune in and comment on a very regular basis, and they very often have very weird and strange and batshit crazy shit to say. Here's a little slideshow of some of their greatest hits, just in case you haven't been paying attention, just in case you didn't tune into the previous video where I showed this exact slideshow. Enjoy! Wow, what a fine group of well-adjusted, calm, reasonable men. These comments definitely do not portray the image of people living outside of objective reality, being delusional, taking themselves way too seriously. Nuh-uh, no hyperbole, no sarcasm. All is good in what is commonly referred to as the hood. Now, you may have noticed in a couple of those comments Dungeon Wolf talking about this album, The White Elf, which, according to Dungeon Wolf, according to comments you just read, has been in the works since late 2021. They initially promised that the album would be released in 2022 with brand new singer and guitarist Herman Passions at the helm. That did not happen. They did, however, release an EP on New Year's Day earlier this year, 2023, which was made up of leftover material from the album Metal's Back, and thus featured their former lead singer, Derek Helgem. After several months of relative silence, aside from the comments that you just saw a moment ago, Dungeon Wolf emailed me on September 30th, offering me the opportunity to listen to their new album, The White Elf, in advance of its release, which at the time, they told me would be released on Halloween. And then Halloween came, and suddenly, no album. Then they reached out to Metal Trenches, and they told him that they'd be releasing The White Elf on November 20th. And then November 20th came, but oh no, no album. Nothing on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music, YouTube, no info as to where to pick up a physical copy of the album, CD, vinyl, cassette. I genuinely thought Dungeon Wolf had chickened out, but then, happy birthday to me, The White Elf releases on November 22nd earlier this week. And I think it's really important to bring all of this up because I can't help but think how fucking funny it is that Dungeon Wolf would call me a coward for not immediately reviewing White Elf, but like, they spent 2 years getting to this point, insisting that the album would be out much sooner, continuously delaying it, and now they drop it out of the blue, no fanfare, no hype, no announcement whatsoever. Like, if this isn't a prime example of the pot calling the kettle black, then I really don't know what fucking could be. So now we have to ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, after 2 years of waiting, after 2 years of harassment and berating and continuous, constant attempts to antagonize and annoy me, after 2 years of being told, hey, the new Dungeon Wolf album is going to drop any minute and it's going to blow your fucking mind, after all these delays, after all this beef and all this controversy, was the White Elf worth it? And in my opinion, one statement can be used to answer all of these questions simultaneously. That being, fuck no! This is one of the most poorly produced, written, and performed records I've ever heard in my life. Perhaps even the most poorly produced, written, and performed record I've heard in my entire life. There is not a single competent piece of music on the entire album. If you told me, without context, that this was pulled from like an SNL, College Humor, South Park skit or parody where they're making fun of washed-up rockers from the 70s and 80s, I'd fucking believe you. You have the opening number and title track, The White Elf, which probably has the weakest fucking riff I've heard on any metal song in recent memory. It's really thin, really basic, really dull. It has no punch, no power, no muscle, no momentum whatsoever. The percussion and bass playing is equally mind-numbingly simplistic. It really just does kind of sound like Baby's first, like, 70s metal song. This new singer, too, Herman Passions, like, holy fucking shit. I don't know how on earth they were able to find somebody whose voice is just as bad for all the same reasons as the previous singer, but honestly, congratulations. It's a little impressive, I can't lie. Like, Herman has absolutely no pitch control whatsoever. His voice is frequently squeaking and cracking. He has an extremely limited range. And generally, this whole thing just sounds and feels so fucking sloppy. The instruments are out of tune. Nothing is really, like, 100% in sync. This whole thing gets even more pathetic and honestly even slightly funny in an ironic way once you start to read into what Dungeon Wolf intended for this song to be. In a statement that Dungeon Wolf sent to me directly through email, they write that the title track, The White Elf, is an anthem for men in its exaltation of the heroic masculine spirit which is under assault by the woke. It's my hope that both the song and the image of me will help inspire men to greater heights. Also, the messaging in the song contains anthemic messages of working class struggle and has the potential to go viral, much in the way Oliver Anthony did. My brother in fucking Christ, what the fuck are you talking about? Working class struggles? The song is about a fucking white elf. You literally scream, I'm the hero, I'm the champion, a symbol of virtue and good. What the fuck does that have to do with anything relating to working class struggles? In that same fucking email, Dungeon Wolf talks about how The Witcher is being assaulted and taken over by the woke and feminist showrunners. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with fucking anything, bro? You sound like somebody's nerdy conservative cousin at Thanksgiving dinner who just won't shut the fuck up. That guitar solo is so fucking bad too. Maybe one of the worst I've ever heard in any fucking song ever. It literally sounds like a child trying to shred their way through the basic scales. Believe it or not, folks, things don't get better for here. The song Chivalry, for instance, opens with perhaps the worst attempt at, like, medieval folk, neoclassical inspired songwriting I've ever heard in my entire life, then transitioning into a very straightforward, very pathetic kind of, like, boomer rock, proto-metal jam. Then there's The White Witch, which I think is trying to be like a more doomy, menacing cut with some slower riffs. Like, the way it kind of plays out almost kind of feels like a really, really primitive version of early Sirith Ungol. I don't think it's a horrible idea per se, but the fact is Dungeon Wolf just is not talented enough to pull it off. And then there's the song Eat My Ass, which honestly kind of broke me. Like, the first time I heard this fucking song, it just, like, triggered something in my fucking brain, and I just burst out in hysterical fits of laughter. Like, I genuinely could not believe what I was hearing. I genuinely could not believe that Dungeon Wolf expected to be taken seriously and then had Herman Passions wailing about how he wants people to eat his ass. We've debated now and then about whether or not Dungeon Wolf are a real fucking band or whether or not they're a bunch of fucking trolls just taking the piss. When I listen to Eat My Ass, I lean towards the latter. Like, this has to be a fucking joke. I'd like to point out, too, these are the only fucking songs on the album. Like, this thing is remarkably short. It's technically an EP. It's just being marketed as an album. And I can't tell whether or not this is a good or a bad thing. I mean, I guess it's good, because it means I don't have to listen to, like, 30 more minutes of this fucking dribble. But it's also bad, because you've literally been talking about a massive album for 2 fucking years, and the best you could muster was 4 fucking songs? You gotta be fucking kidding me, Dungeon Wolf. The production, the mixing and mastering as well is just, like, absolutely fucking horrific. Like, this would be bad even by the standards of a crappy underground death metal, extreme metal demo. There's too much static, there's too much feedback, nothing is focused, nothing is balanced. Dungeon Wolf in the past have attempted to brag about how much money they've spent on recording directly on analog tape. In my opinion, that is money fucking wasted. Like, I get that you're going for, like, this really old school garage rock, proto-metal, underground metal kind of feel and aesthetic, but this just ain't fucking it. Ain't nobody gonna look at this thing and be like, oh my god, this sounds like it could have come out in the late 70s or early 80s. Oh, it's a hidden gem from a bygone era of true rock and roll and metal prowess. Ain't nobody gonna fucking say that, man. I'm not a gambling man, but I'd have no issue going down to Las Vegas and betting a pretty penny on that. None whatsoever. This is an easy 0 out of 5 for me. This isn't just a bad record, it is a sinfully bad record. The worst metal album of the year, if you can even call it an album, really. And also probably one of the worst rock metal albums I've ever heard ever. This is even worse, I would say, than Metal's Back and Barbed Wire Tattoo. I mean, those records weren't great, but I don't think they were as sloppy, as poorly put together, and as laughably fucking stupid as this. It's almost impressive on some level. Like, Dungeon Wolf got a new singer, they spent 2 years on this fucking record, they hyped it up, they talked mad fucking shit, and all of this happened for fucking nothing because somehow it's fucking worse. This is one of those rare instances where I'm just like, no, this is objectively bad. If you listen to this and you tell me you think it's good, I genuinely think something might be wrong with you. Like, you need to see a doctor. Something's up. As I said before, there's been some debate as to whether or not Dungeon Wolf are a serious band, as to whether or not they're just a bunch of trolls taking the fucking piss. I honestly have come to the conclusion that Dungeon Wolf are both. They take themselves way too seriously. They think that their music will spark a revolution and inspire men all over the world to be more manly. They think they are the single greatest metal band of this modern era, and also they are a completely unserious and ridiculous fucking bunch of idiots. Irregardless, though, of what they are or aren't, the music is terrible and remains terrible, irregardless of whatever meaning was intended. 0 out of 5, sinful. Yikes. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Why do you like this record? What the fuck is wrong with you? And what would you like to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Tune into the live stream tonight. Check us out on Discord, Redbubble, and as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.